Welcome to Inclusion Influencers, brought to you by the National Alliance for Accessible Golf. I'm Dave Barton, Executive Director of the Alliance. Our goal with these interviews is to highlight the people and organizations in the game of golf that are making a difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities. This includes golfers, golf industry professionals, supporting organizations, and more that are committed to bringing people into the game. All of us have one thing in common. We know golf is truly a game for all abilities. Our guest today is Albee Shanefelter, author of Be Strong, Be Well, Be Kind, whom I had the pleasure of meeting at the 2023 U.S. Adaptive Open in Pinehurst and have crossed paths with him several times since. He's a great friend of the Alliance, and we're extremely appreciative of the opportunity to speak with him today. According to BookReaderMagazine.com, our guest is a seasoned global tech executive and lifelong entrepreneur with a passion for building businesses, exploring emerging technologies, and diving deep into the future of quantum computing and physics.
Yeah.
Wow. Based on that description, I'm probably gonna need you to speak really slowly with me today, Albee. But nonetheless, welcome to the show. And before we get too far along, I know you recently played in the 2025 Gap Adapted Championship, October 6th and 7th. I took a peek at the results, and it looks like you kind of finished in the pack in the neurological impairment category. And I don't know what your expectations are, but I know you got a lot of stuff going on outside of golf right now that we're going to get in today. So, how's the swing, and how did the tournament feel, and what's going on with your game these days?
Oh yeah, thank you, Dave. I appreciate you and the Alliance for having me on. My game is coming along. It's been quite a year. And Actually a couple weeks ago I played the GSGA Adaptive Open down on Sea Island, and that was a real test. Every one of these um competitions that I go into, I always have a goal. And that particular one is a strength and stamina. It's a 54 holes plus a practice round, so that's 4 days. And so I that was my real test of, like, can I kind of start to mount a comeback and really come back to top shape. Same thing, middle of the pack. It's a tough job, but someone's got to hold up the entire field. So there's a lot of us in the middle. I was really proud that I stuck it out. I finished, and I finished in the middle, and then we worked on a few things in between. Not a lot of time, but the goal was different. So now it wasn't necessarily a finishing goal or a specific score. It was, where do we need to work on the competition game, because your golf game and your competition game are like two different beasts. Everyone thinks they're going to be the same. They show up and they're like, "What happened?" But you really need to really kind of dial in and focus on what's happening. And so Gap was awesome. My swing is good. I'm a bit of a short game addict. Whenever I don't feel well, which tends to be a good amount of time, I actually spend all that time at practicing short game. So I'll do thousands of putts and chips and pitches. I'm really comfortable around all sorts of big greens, small greens, being in the wrong places, hard shots. And I haven't really spent a lot of time on my long game other than just trying to keep the ball in play. And so, now that's kind of where we focus. And what I found was I got really lazy with my pre-shot routines on the tee boxes.
Yep.
And so I think that is like the number one thing that we're going to work on in the next 5 weeks. And during that, continue to improve the long game. Keep working on that. Trying to just complete the swing without trying to completely do a perfect shot. And that's a challenge for every golfer.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to coming up to close out the year. There's Arizona, the Adaptive Golf Championship, and then right behind that is Florida, and that'll close out the year. So I got about 5 weeks, so time to get busy, and we'll see how the year plays out.
That's awesome, and it's great to see you, playing and competing like you are right now. Because I know the first few times we've actually met and had a chance to talk in person, you were on the golf course, but you were out there supporting some of your friends and out there spectating and rooting folks on and stuff like that. So it's great to see you back on the other side of the golf club as you get back into the game. And I tell you, golf pros can make a living if they could get people to do what you do, which is practice short game all the time. I mean, that's what you got to do. But let's do this. We're going to talk about some of these things that have kept you off of the golf course and are continuing to keep you off the golf course here just a little bit. But just want to touch base on your professional career, kind of before golf, and or really adaptive golf, whatever.
Oh
But
yeah.
and you're a published author. We're certainly going to get into that pretty quick as well. And I just like I mentioned in the introduction, when I see quantum in a career description, beyond thinking about Star Trek and all sorts of other stuff, it raises so many questions for me. All right,
Oh yeah.
answers which
Yeah.
I'm likely not to understand, but give me a quick snapshot of kind of your career, and then we'll dabble down into the book and some other things here after
Oh
that.
yeah. Well, thanks for asking. This goes all the way back to when I was young in high school, and I was on track to always be an engineer, and very technical. But one of my easiest classes was electronics, and we tried to fix. If you got it to work, that was great. If not, you learned a lot. Same kind of concept. You either win or you win or you learn. So in that class, like we really understood the kind of like how things kind of worked and how they were wired, and it really had probably the most significant impact on my career. And so coming out, I actually came out of business, and so I was on the business side for a while, and I was really unsettled, and so I wanted to kind of be technical. So then, I kind of went back and I got a computer science degree in addition to the business, and really got deep on technical. And then I saw the wave of globalization, so I kind of like ping pong between technical and business, and I found this kind of sweet spot between being able to understand technical concepts at a deep level, but then also being able to kind of use that to grow the business and talk to people at all sorts of different levels. The quantum thing, so I've got some early exposure. It's really in the early days, but it is just on a different level from computing to today. And it's going to change the world, especially when AI and quantum merge. Um, for me personally, the incurables can be cured. Things that we can't even imagine today will be. Now, with that comes a lot of power, and it will go in the wrong hands. So we need a lot of people to kind of get educated and get on board to be good people. So if we can get more good people than bad people, then we're winning. So it's
Absolutely.
really that simple.
Yeah, I had in my early days of college, I did a little bit of business. I did a little bit of physical education. I didn't know if I wanted to coach. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and ended up trying to figure it out in 4.5 years, and I never quite figured it out. So I joined the Navy. Then I figured it out what I wanted to be when I grew up. But so that's how I got there. But I definitely remember one of my computer programming classes when I was finishing up my degree involved cards and holes getting punched in them,
Oh
and
yeah.
we've come a little bit away from that. So
Yeah.
obviously an amazing career, and then boom, something changed in your life related to your health. You've written about it, which we're going to get into now. So would you mind sharing that part of your story
Oh
now,
yeah.
what you've been working on? And unfortunately, I know you've got some, new things in front of you that you're fighting against. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been about 15 years now, but I had a birthday, and as a technology executive, I was not controlling my schedule for the reasons that I have now, but just there were so many things, so many demands of my time, and I couldn't play on my birthday, which is like usually a treat. I like to make sure I carve that time out. If family can come or friends, that's great. So it was the day after, and I was walking off the golf course, and my face on the side just started burning. And you know, golf courses are absolutely beautiful, but it takes a lot to go into that. And so I thought, oh no, maybe I got my hands into some kind of chemicals and I rubbed them on my face. So I ran into the clubhouse and I scrubbed my face and just nothing. Well, fast forward, it turns out it's a neuro condition called trigeminal neuralgia where the the nerve at the base of the brain that controls eye, cheek, and teeth pain sensations just went haywire and it got stuck on. It's kind of like if you have a cavity and suddenly you get some ice cream and you just get that sensation. It was like that turned on all the time. So being a scrappy guy, I said, okay, well let's go to battle. And we took the path of least invasive to most invasive. And I um, had one procedure after another. It kind of turned into what's next? What else can we do? What's the 3 month plan, the 6 month plan? And nothing really worked. I went through first they stuck a long needle through the back of my head into through the brain into the nerve, and then tried to inject it with something that was destructive and try and disable the nerve. Then we hit it with the gamma knife with radiation. Then finally, I let them kind of cut me up and they drilled out a golf ball size hole in my skull, and then went through, tunneled through, um, wrapped the nerve in Teflon, so that it would stop rubbing against the artery and the veins there. And then while they were there, they injected glycerol into the nerve to try and give it a nice punch. Well, unfortunately, it was too much. And when I woke up, even with all the morphine and all the medicines from the surgery, just my face was now like literally burning my tongue, and you know, it just kind of went sideways. That last brain surgery, it left me pretty incapacitated. I had to relearn to walk, relearn to talk. Um, I tried to hang in there at the pace that we were going, but in the kind of high tech um, Silicon Valley world, you just can't go at a slow pace. It just doesn't work. So unfortunately, that life was kind of taken away, and I was kind of determined that I would figure out something. And I got connected with a lot of different support groups, and we were losing people. So I'd be talking to someone just like you right now, and then the next morning I'd wake up and they would just be gone, dead, like gone, gone, and never like we just had a conversation last night. And I mean that just destroyed me. And so then I really kind of got determined to figure out how can you live well around really challenging situations? Um, and that led to me having tons and tons of notes around, and I would pick them up and read it and be like, oh, this is really great. Who wrote this? And then I would look and it would be me. I was like, oh no, I should put these into a book, if nothing more, at least for me. And so it became a blueprint on how to live well around really challenging situations. Um,
Yeah, you touched on something there, if I may, you know, folks that you had met or, in same and or different situations who are, each independently battling a range of things, some of them similar to what you had, whatever it was, you know, uh, just life altering, life threatening sorts of things. And, I can only imagine that, it can, as motivated as somebody can be, it can become very isolating.
oh,
I
yeah.
think, and to your point, folks that are unable, for whatever reason to keep that fight up, and it happens around, it does, a lot of it's due to, the isolation, obviously, the pain and those sort of things, but just you've got no one. I don't have any support here. They've got support, but they don't feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
they got support, right? I mean, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And not to fast forward too far, but if we can just um when unfortunately in my situation, all this masked what was really happening underneath, and that was prostate cancer was spreading across my skeleton. And um it was very similar that, and it just is a challenge because people have problems, but they're not the same. And to understand something that is lifelong, incurable, and unpleasant on a daily basis is, something that I wouldn't want to wish on anyone. But, you know, my, um, there's a way forward. There's a way is what I'll say. Um, and it is very isolating. And here in DC, we have an emerging adaptive golf area, very focused on the veterans, which is great because we do have a high concentration. And so even back in 13 and 14, I was working with those guys, and they were been encouraging me to come out. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I actually came out and went to a competition when the USDGA came to Lorton.
Mhm.
And then ever since then, I was like, whoa, hey, some people, my people, like this, people I don't have to hide anything. I can be myself with all the challenges that I go through on a daily basis. And it's just been awesome. And golf itself, isn't it, you have the people, the interaction, you have your challenges of yourself, but then there's also another aspect because I would come home and I'd feel so good that day and the next day. And what was happening, I was really stimulating my vagus nerve that runs throughout your whole body, and it would just kind of like put all my neuromuscular system kind of back into check, which, is just a huge plus for anyone that has any kind of neuro problems. So,
Yep. Did you say Lorton, Lorton, Virginia?
yeah, yeah, Lauren, Virginia.
Like Laurel Hill?
Yeah, Laurel Hills.
That's
Yeah.
my old stomping ground, man. I lived there for a long time when I was up in DC area. At the end of my Navy career and for a few years after it, my right, right across the street from that South County High School, the golf course is on the other
Oh
side. It's
yeah.
a fantastic public golf course, man. It's really nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I played it just a few weeks ago. Like a lot of the Mid-Atlantic got slammed. We got a lot of
Mhm.
heat and a lot of rain, and it was challenging, but it's really come back. And it's definitely another a track that if you play it, it'll be a test of your skills. And if you can play well there, you can play almost, well all over. So
Yep. Well, I appreciate you sharing your the things you've got going on on the medical side of things right now. And I know you touched on and you shared a picture with me this morning
no,
regarding what
yeah.
we're talking about as far as the stage four elements with what your newest stuff, your newest
Oh yeah.
fight is. And I think, it's for all the wrong reasons and all the right reasons, is a great lead in for, I think, one of the reasons that you've been called the unstoppable warrior leader for the specials, which I picked up somewhere. And I think a lot of it has to do with, just your outlook and your methods for ways that you are conducting your life, and also trying to kind of pull other people along with you, even though you've
Oh
got
yeah.
other things going on. It's really
Let's go.
very cool. So tell me a little bit about being the unstoppable warrior leader. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
obviously you're an extremely positive person, and we can get into your book pretty quick after that.
Yeah, so this came out of my support groups. We had a lot of people that were going the other direction that just couldn't take it anymore and giving up. And so, um, I was determined to keep testing and testing, and I kept sharing everything. I grew up in a family where, we weren't really allowed to talk about our challenges. If you were hurt or sick, it was seen as a weakness. You go get better by yourself, you don't talk about it, definitely don't share it with other people. And so, it was really hard for me in the beginning. I was in these small private groups and I was able to kind of share what I was working on and what was working and what wasn't. And so, it was kind of like a few different things, yeah, there was a handful of people that were like, "Whoa, like you are like really unstoppable. Like you just won't stop." And I was like, "Yeah, never." Like, I hate to use this, but I'll have like, one foot in the grave and be like, "I think I can get 18 in. Let's just go one more time." You know, but uh, and then part of that is you have to kind of warrior up. I mean, and there's lots of little things that you can do throughout your day to kind of send yourself positive messages. So like even my cup here, I got my
Yeah.
tall cup of warrior. But like, you just kind of surround yourself with that mentality and messages and you keep getting back up. You might get knocked down, you might get kicked while you're down, and you might have to stay down for a long time. But as long as you keep getting back up, and that's kind of the warrior spirit. And then the specials, I really like taking something negative and flipping it upside down and making it something positive. And so, I really didn't like being called disabled. I didn't like, people were, growing up with the mindset that we had, or we were taught, and then, um, hearing what other people were saying, it was like, whoa, wait a minute, no one in these communities like that, they're just special in a different way that you haven't really been exposed to yet. And so I started to use that, and then I don't know, they started calling me that in the groups. And then it turns out like I had no idea, maybe I'm ignorant or whatever, but that, the Special Olympics, right? And that's when they was founded, was the same exact concept. Like, oh, wait a minute, and that's, intellectual um challenge folks, but the same concept, we're trying to flip it out. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, they're just special. And so it's like, okay, I can accept that. Let's go. Like, you know, let's be an unstoppable warrior, and people need a leader. I definitely didn't ask for this, and I definitely didn't plan for this. So, but here we are. So we might as well, help as many people as we can while we can.
Yeah. Where, I mean, briefly, where, because obviously you have some good days and some great days, and you also have some days that are not so good and not so great,
Oh
right?
yeah, even recently, yeah.
And where, where does that drive come from, as far as, if, with you.
I gotta say, it's when you don't have a choice, you'll make the right choice. Um, and what that means to me is that, when your back is up against the wall, are you gonna just give up? And unfortunately, when it comes to late stage cancer, stage 4 cancer, those groups, a lot of people only hear what they were told. Like the first doctor I met with told me I only had a few months to live. And I didn't even ask him that. So I was like, "Wait, what are we talking about?" Like, I thought we were talking about like what we can do, not like plan to give
Right.
up. And so, I just feel like, it's very, binary for me, that it's either this way or that way, on or off. So either you're going to give up and everything's going to implode, or you're going to commit to just keep getting back up and keep getting back up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, the book.
Yeah, the book.
Let's talk about the book.
Yeah, the book.
Be strong, be well, be kind. The battle proven plan to reclaim your life from chronic pain, illness, and other conditions. The three B's, as you say.
Yeah.
You dedicated the book to your parents, Albert and Judith, and
Yeah.
I'm going to read a quote from your sister Kathy that was in the forward. Then I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about your book and its kind of target audience and all things related to that book, which I've read, which was a really really good read, and I appreciate you sharing it with me so that I could do that. So, from your sister Kathy in the forward. Albee has shined a bright light in the disabled and chronic illness community. Hopefully, you will find yourself standing in that same light as you read this book and connect with him. It's time for you to go forward on your own path. You are a unique person with unique challenges, but you are not alone in your journey. Wishing you a life like Albee's, full of light, love, and purpose. So, with that, Albee, let's talk about your book. And what an amazing bit of advice and words from your sister about you. So, all you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is one of the big things. Is like, no matter what is happening, you might feel completely isolated and like you're alone, but you're not alone. Even, with the TN and neuromuscular problems, the source of mine comes from a group. It's like 0.005% in the world. But the fact that I found a community and we're able to use the internet to connect with each other and help each other out, I mean, that's just amazing. So you're really not alone. Um, and then you have your own unique path. But everyone's path, our minds and bodies are going to break down over time. And that's just a fact of the way the human journey works. So, what can we do to make it a little better? I'm not saying that this book or, anything I'm doing is gonna fix anything. But what it can do is make you just live better, just a little bit better. We could get, a couple people a day just to live a little better around whatever they're going through. That's what it's all about. Um, and that was kind of my mission. Frankly, I've had a couple bad days here with the changing weather, a little bit of stress. I've got to get scans again done this week, and those results are going to determine the next 6 months. What's that going to look like? Um, but you know, now I have this, and I actually use it every day um, to help me stay grounded. And when you get into it, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds, now thousands of people, and there's actually kind of like knowing the path that you have to go down to, the path that you have to traverse when things become chronic, it's kind of helpful to take it up a level and look at that path, and realize like, okay, this is where I am. First you have that weird feeling, and then you go get checked, and then it might be this or that, or then it is this. You get the news, and then you got to tell people the news, or you try and hide it. Either way, like at some point, people are going to notice, or they're going to find out. You got to share the news. Then through the medicines and the procedures, and then at some point they might just give up on you and be like, okay, you're left to your own will. And then this is where it can really add a lot of value. So, it's targeted for people that have the worst of the worst, but it's helping people that are even having just problems in their life that are pretty common, and helping them see life a little differently and move forward. Um, and that's where it comes into section 3, and in doing so many tests over so long and different strategies to find what attributes really make a difference. And kind of we nailed down 15 different ones. And we created this concept of a dashboard. And so if I could take you on a little journey, you become the pilot. You're in your airplane, you're there ready to take off. You're starting through your day, and you have 15 gauges, and you're kind of monitoring them. And to make it simple, they'll be the old stoplight, green, yellow, red. Well, as it turns out, as a chronically challenged human, if you get a few of those into the red, it can be game over for your day. And so the
Mhm.
other day, I had weather stuff that I couldn't control, hydration that I could have, but I was behind, and then just a unbelievable amount of stress. And so between the three of those, it was just game over. And there's 15, and so part 3 is really lays that out, for you to be able to watch these gauges, but then make adjustments throughout your day. And some of that might be, oh, I need to cancel and do some self-care this afternoon that I didn't plan to. Or it may just be, I gotta lay there until this storm passes and then try and get back up again. Oh, it didn't work.
Yep.
Well, let's try again tomorrow. The sun comes up, you know. I think one of the biggest things that people could do is think about building a resiliency practice. Realize things are going to go wrong, but how you react to them really makes a difference. And the physical stuff is horrible and challenging and weighs heavy, but the mental side is what really gets people. And so I think if we can really focus on our mental wellness around this, that's where we can help people win.
Yeah, when I was reading the book, I couldn't help but thinking, there's, and this is very general, there's a whole litany of like self-help type books. Here's some guidance for you. But a lot of those books are often, written by, intelligent people who know what they're talking about, but they're educated in that way, but they haven't lived what they're educating about. It's got, and in your situation, as the author here, you have instant credibility with the readers because you continue to live this life that you have written about. And I think it provides, just really actionable guidance, for individuals that are in these situations, a complicated life threatening situations in many cases, because they can look at the book, they can look at you, and they can go, okay, um, that guy's been where I'm at right now. How do I get where he's at? Or something like that. So I think it
Oh
really
yeah.
resonates. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we, inspire and motivate people and teach them to tap into their willpower, um, and add some discipline, and and that is really about just keep getting back up, but and start to look at these different gauges and learn how they can adjust it. And part of this is like they are not powerless, not alone, not powerless. So no matter what it is, like you still have a choice. There are actions that you can take. You need to build your awareness. Like sometimes things are going so haywire that I don't even know that it's wrong until I realize that, like, oh my gosh, I am not being kind to people. Like, what happened? And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like my nervous system is totally flaring. I'm having a rough time. I need to hit that pause button and take myself out of this situation and then go reset and then try and come back. Um, because if you're not aware, you're just taking action. You're shooting darts in the dark, at a target that you can't see. So,
Yeah.
you really got to understand your awareness. And so I spend a lot of time tuning in, which, is good and bad because you don't want to be overly tuned. I got a 4 week program inside the book that helps you raise your awareness. And one of the big things, especially with physical issues, is that they tend to be hyper focused in one area. So if you can learn to do body scans, even if you're missing a part, you're an amputee or what have you, like you can still scan your entire body. It's really grounding to kind of get in your body every single morning. And it kind of you'll know where it's really, really loud. For me, is it the bone pain in my hips or my spine or my ribs or my neck? Or, is it like a flare where I'm just having really intense pain and I can't control my hands or, my muscles or, what's going on? But once I'm aware, then I'm like, okay, I need to get up and go for a walk. Just let some of that out. Oh man, I'm stressed. I have not done anything to let that stress out of my body. No wonder it's reacting. Let me go to the gym and do some light weightlifting or let me do some yoga. Which is kind of funny because when you have something chronic, everyone's going to say, "Have you tried yoga?" And for years, I was like, "Oh, but now I see it differently, and I do have a yoga practice, but it's not a cure. It's just kind of helped me find where all the tightness is and not and where I need to kind of focus, with foam rolling or whatever I'm doing to try and loosen those hot spots up. So,
I'll tell you, man, listen, yoga is no joke, man. I'm telling you, I think I've been in good shape twice in my life, right? Once was when I was on active duty as a rescue swimmer. I was
oh
22,
yeah.
23 years old, and we were running and swimming all the time. And of course, I vowed to be in that great a shape for my entire life. And of course, things happen, hair falls out. You know the drill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then
There's a reason why I got out.
I'd say about the time I was retiring from the service, there was a program, it's still out there, called P90X, their
Oh yeah.
first launch of that. And I did that religiously for like 90 days, man. And I was in like really good shape for me. But,
Yeah.
you know, sustaining those kind of activities, like me, is just personal health, right? Now, a lot of what you're talking about is absolutely personal health.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think therein lies the challenge for everyone, but in particular, if you've got these other things going on, the ability to wake up and be motivated, is more than half the battle, I would
Oh
presume.
yeah.
Got to wake up, and I can't speak to that, not, in my present life, but you can, and that's what your book does, is it gives someone a chance, I believe, that is maybe kind of languishing a little bit and internalizing a lot about what's going on with them. I think it's a great methodology for kickstarting or trying to kickstart, your life back in a direction it needs to go, whether you want it to go there or not. That's the
Oh
direction
yeah.
your life needs to go
Yeah.
if you want to have a life.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And that's your choice, right? Like you're not powerless. You're making these choices. So, the guys in my cancer group, they got their diagnosis and just, they gave up and just took pills and laid on the sofa. You know, I got up and went to the golf course. I might have puked a little bit, and the greenskeeper was not happy, but my putts are going in. So, um, and that kind of made me happy. And then that created a little bit, if you could set one little tiny goal, and that's the biggest problem is we all like set these big grandiose goals, but if you can set just one tiny one in the morning, it just gives you a good kind of puff of the good stuff in your brain, and then you want another one and another one, and next thing you're like, holy crud, I'm focused, like I'm functional. I'm like getting stuff done. I mean,
Yeah.
releasing this book, I was in the middle. I went through surgery to have a tennis ball sized tumor removed. Then we did a month of radiation, then 6 months of chemo, and then 2.5 months of immunotherapy. And during that is when we finished the book and we released it and launched it. So, like, if I can use this material to do that, like, imagine what everyone else can do? So,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, in golf is as you well know, and as a whole lot of folks in the adaptive golf community know, the health and wellness benefits are there. I mean, for myself included, I like to walk, but it's golf is that sport. You listen, I love basketball. I loved all sports growing up, but you're not gonna catch me on a basketball court anymore because that's been got to my
yeah.
gauge, bust Achilles tendon stuff yet. But you know, again, golf has so many things going for it besides just swinging the golf club, which in itself is therapeutic. You're getting a pound of
Oh,
golf
yeah.
ball, whatever satisfaction you get out of that. You're hitting thousands short game shots like you're talking about, whatever that may be. You're outside, you're kind of in the air. Hopefully, there wasn't anything except a bunch of rain down here in South Carolina the last few days, but. Obviously, just golf is fantastic for that, and I think very much so the adaptive golf community and those that support it recognize how important that is. And so, where can folks find your book? And we'll be sure to put this in the magazine as well. But where can they find your book? I'm sure it's a few places.
Yeah, well, actually, right now, it's exclusively on Amazon.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, and so I'm having them print it and everything at the moment. Um, but on my task list, which is very long, um, is to enable a whole long list of other retailers. And I come from a world where we work with the big guys, but we also try and really support the little guys. So part of me taking my time is to make sure that I have a way for the small independent bookstores to be able to carry it, especially as I travel around to adaptive tournaments. I want to be able to go into those towns and into the local bookstores and libraries, and give little talks and try and see who we can help, and get them out to kind of see all the goodness that is adaptive golf. And what I'm just one of many. I mean, you get out there, if you don't leave that golf course inspired, even if you don't do anything with golf and you go see this, I don't know what's going to inspire you. So,
Yep, absolutely. Well, very well said for sure. All right, so we're kind of getting near the end of our time today. So I do like to throw a couple of rapid fire questions out. And you can say no comment if you want to, but I think these
okay.
these are pretty manageable. And not no trick. There's no trick questions here. So what's your favorite club in the bag and why?
Oh my goodness. So everyone's going to tell you that my favorite club is the 3 wood, but it isn't. Um, it's kind of toss up between my putter and then I have a new 64 wedge, 64-degree wedge. And so that's probably it. Um, yeah, it's I got it in black so that way I know exactly which club it is, and when I pick it up, I really get in the mindset. And it's for those shots that are inside 30, tight lies, but also if you got to shoot it up and land it real crisp, tight over some kind of trouble. And I will spend hours with that thing, just kind of like practicing all sorts of hard shots and just trying to get comfortable. So when it happens out in the course, I'm like, this is not a problem. I got this. And, it doesn't work all the time, right? That's golf. That's being human, but a lot of times it does, and that's just super satisfying. The three
Yeah.
wood, it's just money for me. I don't know what it is. Like I don't have to try. I just pick it up and I can smack that thing like 230. Um, I don't know. I don't know what's up with
That's
that.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
64-degree wedge, you, Phil Mickelson, and a couple guys on tour. I mean, I had one years ago. I have a 60. There's no way a 64 is going back in my bag, and I play my fair share of golf. But I wish you the best of luck with that 64-degree wedge. But
Oh
I will
yeah.
say that, hey, there, somebody's opinion might be if you're having to use that 64-degree wedge a lot, you might be thinking about why those 8 and 9 irons aren't hitting the green.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's what we're working on now, those approaches. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
My fairway regulation is really high. Greens and regulation needs improvement. But that is a question. Um, you know, I was the same boat. Like, not only was the 64 not there, the 60 wasn't on the bag anyway. So that's kind of like why I'm so proud of it because I can use it now and I can put it in different places in my stance, open it, close it, like all sorts of different things, which, it's super fun for me, especially when I don't have the energy to actually go play.
Yeah.
That can be really uplifting. And it's funny to watch other people as you're doing those shots around, looking at you and saying, "Whoa, what was that?" Yeah, that's always
Yeah.
fun. But to your
There's
point, yeah, yeah, get on the green, do your two putts, and get out. I'm working on that.
there's
I'm
nothing
working
more
on that.
there's nothing more satisfying
Trying
though.
too hard.
There's nothing more satisfying though than hitting a really quality flop shot, especially when people watch it happen. So good on you
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
All right, so you're from the Maryland area. I was on the other side of the river up in Northern Virginia for a long time. So pretty common question up in those parts is Washington Commanders or Baltimore Ravens or
Well, so
somebody
this is
else.
weird because I really want to be a Ravens fan, but I'm not. Like there's just I don't know what it is, but I grew up a Redskins fan. Now Commanders. We moved away. We came back. As a kid, I wasn't a Colts fan when they were in Baltimore. So they got a team while I was away. When I came back, they have this team and everyone loves it and it's all Maryland stuff, but nope. 100% Commanders. And it's been 2 decades of hell. But things are, I mean, we had a rough night last night, but things are on the right track. So yeah, it's fun to be a Washington fan right now.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm trying to get back into it. I was a, season ticket holder for the San Diego Chargers for a long time.
Okay.
And the day they moved to LA, I was like, done.
Yeah.
Done. And there were some other things going on in the NFL. I just want to turn and watch the game. I'll leave it at that. I'm more about
Yeah.
watching the game instead of all the other stuff that surrounds pro sports these days. But anyway, all right, I got you. I got you on the Commanders. As a Navy guy, I love the name. Obviously, that's Commander's a good naval term. I'm surprised they chose a certain military service up in that neck of the woods. That was my biggest surprise because I kind of liked Washington Football Club, to tell you the truth. I thought it was
Oh yeah.
pretty. They had to change, whatever. I
Yeah.
kind of like Washington Football Club. But okay, here's one more final question, then we'll kind of wrap it up here. What's your current golf goal? Okay, it might be a score, it might be something else, or it might be to qualify for a certain adaptive golf tournament that's coming up next year. So what do you got?
Oh
What's the
yeah.
goal for you right now? I'll give you two goals.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a couple.
Yeah.
So to get back towards the top of the pack, is the first goal. And it's not necessarily a scoring goal because, the score is just an output. So it's about what you have as your inputs. And that's where the problems are. So really to do that on a consistent basis, work towards continuing to play at a national level. Um, right? Whether it's USGA, USDGA, or other, national championship level tournaments and play well in them. And then, granted, scans, health, everything will accommodate it. Start doing some um, global work, whether it's, G4D or, whatever. And try and get out and be an international ambassador and champion for adaptive golf. And be a champion too, right? Like not
Yeah.
just get out and do all the things that we do, but also play and play well. And so So we'll see how that pans out in the next 12 months. So,
That's awesome.
uh,
Those are and not only the good goals, the best goals are they're attainable, right? The good goals,
yep.
or they might be just possibly attainable, but those are attainable. And I love what you're looking at there. Well, listen, Albie, it's been a real pleasure as you can see on the video here. The sun has decided to go above my shade, which which this hopefully the reflection off the top of my head is not blinding you back.
No, no, you're good. You're
But
good.
it's been a real pleasure, and I just want to close with a couple, kind of final, one or two part questions. You're husband, father of two college students, uh, obviously a passionate golfer and a great advocate for the game of golf, and a great advocate for other people who are in need of, folks helping them in their journeys, I guess would be one way to say it. You know, what would you like to say about maybe your family and friends and the support networks? And then, we kind of already got into what gets you motivated at the start of each day, but maybe just touch on the importance of that stuff in your particular journey, and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the first thing is that I'd say that I'm just super grateful because, I know that my name is on everything, but it is definitely a team effort. Whether it's my direct family, the community here in Silver Spring, the adaptive golf community, the University of Maryland community, you name it, they've all been super supportive and helped us get to this point. But what I would like to say to them is, even if I'm not here, that they can achieve much more than your mind will let you. You just have to keep trying, keep getting up over and over, no matter what. And so hopefully that message will go to them, to you, to our listeners, to everyone. That's probably the most important thing. I will say, you touched on the morning. Um, think about your morning routine, how you start your mornings every day. I actually was not a morning person, but now I get up an hour early every day, and I take some time to myself to get grounded before everything happens. And I do spend about an hour. I use a UV light, like a happy light, that actually kind of like already starts getting the good chemicals going in your brain. I do a little meditation. I do some body work just to kind of wake up the body so you're just not kind of running out the door. Um, and then once you're kind of grounded, then start interacting with the world, whether that be online or in person, and then keeping an eye on your tone because if you're not being kind to other people, you're probably not being kind to yourself. And that's probably the hardest work you'll ever do. So if you don't start your day that way, it's really hard to get back on track. So, to really think about getting a solid morning routine and trying to stick with it. If you fall off track, so be it. Get back on track. Like that's it. So,
Yeah, that's really good advice, and I that's really good advice for anyone because
oh, yeah.
I can only speak for myself. I'm a retired Navy pilot. I'm a little bit type A. I'm a little bit OCD. Those sort of things that kind of come in handy in some professions, and some professions they don't.
Yeah.
I recognize that, but there's many nights when I go to sleep and I'm already thinking about what I got to do the first thing when I wake up in the morning that is
Oh, yeah.
usually work or list related, as opposed to your point, what's really got to happen first thing in the morning when you start your day besides just start your day. Just start your day, get a little balance because the list is still going to be there. The stuff
Oh,
is
yeah.
going to be there. Yeah, so it's really, really good advice, and I appreciate you sharing that. And listen, it has been fantastic speaking with you today. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the future. Certainly, wish you a
Absolutely.
lot of success with what you've got going on. And
Thank
I
you.
know if anybody can succeed in that fight, I'm talking to that person right now, and I'm looking forward to again catching a person in 2025. And I can't think of a better way to wrap up our 2025 Golf Inclusion Monthly, as well as our 2025 Inclusion Influencer series, because my man, you meet that criteria. The message that you bring to other golfers or individuals that don't play golf that are facing some of the challenges you talk about in your book is really, really good advice. And so, in your words, Albee Shanefelter, be strong, be well, be kind. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Dave.